So part of the foregut is obviously up to there. With the accessory organs, the spleen will be there under the dome of the diaphragm, and the liver and the gallbladder will be here, again under the dome of the diaphragm, and the pancreas will be lying there just within that C shape that's made by the duodenum, and it will be lying posterior to the stomach. So now I'm just going to remove the midgut and the hindgut, and indeed focus on just the foregut. So the foregut really I'll include just a tiny bit of the midgut there, but the foregut really ends here at the or really the dark that at the duct really that at the it really is the bile and pancreatic duct, entry to the duodenum. So that's where it actually ends. And so now I'm going to look at the foregut in much more detail, and I will include the blood supply as well to make things a bit more easier, and I will include the accessory organs, of course. Let's draw them in green. I'm going to remove that. So the liver, I did not leave much room for the liver. However, the liver is a large structure that will be lying there just under the dome of the diaphragm. I did not leave much room for the liver, so this is not as anatomically accurate as it should be. And the gallbladder will be lying just under the liver there. I think I'll just move the stomach down a bit. Even though I like my stomach. So the liver really is the very large, the second largest organ in the body, following after the skin, or after the skin. So it's quite incredibly big. Not the best looking stomach ever, but really this is just for illustration purposes, if anything. So the liver lies there, much larger than shown here, really, because it's for illustration purposes. And then the diaphragm, oh no, the gallbladder, I'll write in blue, will lie under the liver, but for illustration purposes, really, I'll just show the hepatic ducts coming in to form the common hepatic duct. And then, you know, we'll have and my, yeah, I'll just right there. So this will be our GB cystic duct, and these are the hep ducts, and then this will be the common hep duct, and this will be the common bile duct. And then the spleen lies just there, just under the dome of the diaphragm. I'm not going to say any more about it. The pancreas lies within the C shape of the duodenum, and really it actually lies posterior to the stomach, because in the human body the stomach really overlays the pancreas. But I've just lifted it up really just for illustration purposes. So it lies there, with that being its tail, extending towards the spleen. They're much more closer, you know, it's extending towards the spleen, but I'm not really going to extend it any further than this, because this is just for illustration purposes, and I need to insert my blood supply there as well. So the pancreas obviously will have I think I'll talk about, I'll talk about the accessory organs on their own when I do a massive physiology lecture on absorption of nutrients, because I think then that will make much better sense. So this is will be just a simple introduction of the anatomy and physiology. So the stomach really has a fundus, which is just this region there. It really where the lower esophageal sphincter is, or where the part of the region of the stomach lies above the sphincter. So like, so this part really is called the fundus of the stomach. And this is the body of the stomach. And this is the pylorus antrum leading to the pylorus sphincter, which really is there. The function of the stomach really is to, I wasn't going to do this, but stomach has parietal cells, which secrete hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor. And it also has principal cells, or also called chief cells, which actually secrete pepsinogen. It also secretes, okay, so all of this is the gastric juice that's secreted by stomach to aid digestion, which really I should be mentioning as part of physiology. But since I've just quickly mentioned it now, just do it very quickly. It also secretes bicarbonate to neutralize that acid, and it also secretes mucus, really to protect itself again from its acidic contents. Obviously, pepsinogen is inactive and is activated by hydrochloric acid. So we go from pepsinogen being activated by HCl to pepsin, and then pepsin breaking down proteins to simple peptide chains that are then later on broken down to, you know, their simple amino acids for absorption. Obviously, intrinsic factor is for vit B12 absorption in the ileum. Hydrochloric acid as well also kills pathogens. Bicarbonate neutralizes acid, and the mucus really is a layer that protects the stomach. The stomach also has, if we were to dissect it and look inside, it has these folds which really are used for breaking down food and mixing food with the gastric juice in order to form chyme. So gastric juice plus food, like broken down food, equals chyme, and the stomach really stores chyme and then transports it or deposits it into the duodenum. So then the duodenum for actual absorption of nutrients, because the stomach really does not absorb any nutrients. It doesn't really, you know, undertake digestion and absorption. The only things that are absorbed in the stomach are simple sugars, things like honey and alcohol and aspirin, and that's it. Otherwise, really just breaks food down, doesn't really digest, breaks food down, mixes it with gastric juice, forms chyme, stores chyme, deposits it into the duodenum during peristalsis, like as droplets, and then in the duodenum, that's where digestion occurs, because obviously in the duodenum we'll have all the digestive enzymes from the pancreas and indeed the bile from the gallbladder and the liver, which are then able to start breaking down food even more and then digesting it and allowing for absorption. For example, I've just mentioned the absorption of vitamin B12 in the terminal ileum. So that's where absorption occurs, but then I'll cover absorption properly when I do physiology. So from the stomach anyway, we then move on to the duodenum via the pylorus atrium, and at the duodenum, where the foreguts, or the abdominal part of the foreguts ends, is the bile duct and pancreatic duct entry into the small intestine. So now that I've very, very quickly shown the abdominal part of the foregut, I just want to ever so quickly discuss its blood supply, because all of the GI tract receives its blood supply from the abdominal aorta, which enters the abdominal cavity at T12. and as it enters T12, it gives off the celiac axis, which really supplies all the blood to the foregut. And the celiac axis actually then bifurcates into 3 main branches. My spleen now needs to come a bit, just a little bit. So this will be the drive 3, yes. So the celiac axis really is quite short in terms of that, it just runs from there and immediately just gives off bifurcates into these 3 branches. So this will be our celiac axis, which supplies blood supply to, some people call it the celiac trunk, to the foregut. So it gives, the first branch it gives is the left gastric. So this will be the left gastric, which gives blood supply to the lesser curvature of the stomach. Obviously, nothing I've drawn today really is anatomically correct when we look at this, because, yeah, things have not gone as well as I hoped. And obviously, one thing I should have mentioned about the stomach, which I think I probably mentioned very, very briefly, is that it has a lesser curvature and a greater curvature. The lesser curvature has the lesser omentum, which really is a fatty tissue, which really is for protection. I think I'll probably discuss it better when I discuss the accessory organs. However, really, and the greater curvature has the greater omentum, which just hangs at the greater omentum, really, and covers the spleen, also attaching to the transverse colon, and then just hanging really just at the anterior end of one stomach. Again, it's just fatty tissue, which is really there for protection, again to prevent infections, and again really as a storage for fat. However, I think I'll cover it properly when I do accessory organs. Anyway, so we have a left gastric, which supplies the lesser omentum, and then we'll have a splenic artery, which takes a very long, tortuous route to the spleen, and as it does so, it gives there a posterior gastric. So this is the posterior gastric, which supplies the posterior aspect of the stomach, and then it also gives a lot of other gastric arteries, which again, obviously things are much closer in the human body. I've stretched things out really for illustration purposes. It will also give off a few gastric arteries, including an artery to the fundus part of the stomach, and then a few other gastric arteries, and then it will give its branches to the spleen, and then it will actually also give off a branch that is called the left gastro-omental branch, which really obviously gastrointestinal, which supplies the greater curvature of the stomach. It comes on to supply the greater curvature of the stomach and the omentum, which is hanging there. So really, it's more coming that way. And then the common hepatic artery gives off the right gastric, which ascends ever so quickly and then descend to join to form an arcade with the left gastric and supply the lesser omentum. So this would be the right gastric. After giving off the right gastric, really, it also gives off the gastroduodenal. And then it becomes the proper hepatic. So this is now the proper hepatic, which then goes on to give off the left hepatic and the right hepatic, and the right hepatic will give off the cystic. So this will be right and left hepatic, and this being our cystic artery. The gastroduodenal artery gives off the supraduodenal, which supplies the superior aspect of the duodenum there. So this will be our supraduodenal. And then it will give off the this is not drawn to anatomically correct. Then it will give off the right gastronomenta, which joins the left. Obviously the stomach will lie much more, they will be running there, but for illustration purposes they look like this. So then it will give off the right so it will then give off the right gastromental, which anostomizes with the left to supply the greater curvature of the stomach, and indeed the omentum, the greater omentum. It will there will also be the supra. No, in fact, it's the superior. So this will be the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, which actually then anastomoses with the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery as well, which actually arises from the SMA. So really, these are the, there will be other duodenal branches given off and other gastric branches given off, but really these are the main branches, arterial branches from the celiac axis at level T12 that supply the foregut. And obviously the foregut also includes the spleen, the pancreas, the hepatic, the liver, and of course from the spleen we also get the, from the left gastric we also get branches to the esophagus actually, and indeed we will also get branches to the diaphragm itself, but I haven't mentioned though, I haven't drawn them out. So really, in this very, very quick and brief introduction to the GI tract, I've very quickly discussed the histology of the GI tract, emphasizing how the squamous epithelium found at the esophagus is different and much less resistant from the columnar epithelium that is found throughout the GI tract. And really that is very important for reflux disease, because that difference in the epithelia leads to the destruction of that squamous epithelia and metaplasia, which really results in the development of Barrett's esophagus. I've also discussed all the layers of the mucosa, the submucosa, the muscular layer, and indeed the serosa, which really form the histology of the GI tract. I've also decided that I'll just give a very brief introduction of the foregut, which obviously of the abdominal contents of the foregut, which is what we're looking at right now. Talked about how the stomach secretes gastric juices that are then mixed in with the food that we eat in order to form chyme, which is then retained in the stomach and then deposited into the duodenum for the beginning of absorption of food and digestion. I've also very briefly touched on the areas of the stomach, such as the fundus, the body of the stomach, the lesser curvature, the greater curvature, from which hangs the greater omentum, which really also attaches to the transverse colon, and the lesser curvature, from which we have the lesser omentum. And the much important thing about the lesser omentum really is that it has the epiploic foramen, which really I will touch on when I talk about the accessory organs and how they develop in the mesogastrum. And that epiploic foramen is really the only entrance in the body to the lesser sac, obviously the greater sac being the abdominal cavity itself. I've also really very quickly and briefly just shown the celiac axis and the branches, the main branches that it gives to the foreguts, to the organs of the to the abdominal organs of the foregut. So in the next section, I will I think I'll focus on the accessory organs and the digestion of food, and also really focus on the physiology. And as I talk about the pathology, I'll then discuss the rest of the anatomy and relate it to the pathology and the physiology, instead of just having an anatomy lecture. But I feel that it was important really to just have this lecture because of the introduction that it gives to gastroenterology, which really is a topic that I enjoy. And my research really is on the pancreas, the gallbladder, and the ducts